destiny was part of the calling of this individual who was leading a group in the Astro-Lab Space Observatory in California. And previously I'd mentioned that there had been individuals from around the world being attracted to it. And I would say not just this world, but the other realms and real side. And this the individuals in the story was a human. Maybe you could say it was myself. It's related to my own path or walkway that began in 1965, not being aware of that Paul Twitchell had begun to publish and make public Ekankar, Shariat, and stories, including science fiction novel, so-called, such as The Talons of Time and those things, talking about, and also there was one about Mexico, the Drums of Ek, where I guess about 150 years ago, when the Mexicans were seeking independence, and related to the about Alamo and so forth and so on, with the war between Mexico and American forces. And you know, the actual war is, there is no war between the forces of Americans and Mexicans, let's say. That's all made up and supervised by the controlling authority population. And so you could look at it that way. Nonetheless, the observation I had was something similar in a number of different ways. One that just flashed from my mind was a dream I had about being an Indian in Mexico. That is one of the native peoples who was being I was with the group of people laying out the gold for the Spaniards to have, sort of as a tribute, or as a, you know, okay, you wanted this, and so we'll give it to you. But the Spanish didn't just take it; they also killed the people and or enslaved them, and basically pretended that it was goodwill, and then they had no real intention of goodwill. And that's kind of that historical picture. I remember the pyramid where the huge, I think it's Teotihuacan, the name. So, you know, when we have these past life experience recalls, it's good to pay attention to them. And that relates here in that this individual sometime in the last 50 years, the story was about, he comes to Arizona, and the story goes that he realizes that these space aliens are observing the planet, and that the people are under what's happening in the book is there's a mining operation, or at night, the individual humans are being abducted, let's say, not abducted in the sense of being taken away from their bodies or from their homes, but that they're hypnotized to work at night and go out and do whatever services are needed by the Litecs, I call them. And say this, they had observed also this 5 space stations around the planet being manned by the Litecians, or Litecs-aliens. using the light wave and EMR frequencies to observe and modify and control the human and world populations, and to report on the progress of these humans to their network of planetary controllers who are similar to the Darth Vader force of Star Wars and serving the empirical network via these hypnotic systems and universal body at work. So that part of the story then is that this individual is helping the humans wake up from this invasion force, and there's other terms for it I'm not coming up with now. Nonetheless, that actuality is more or less what's actually happened and is happening still. And the media control network that's been set up is all part of that total enhancement and the indoctrinated modifications and so forth and so on. So that's part of the story leads to these individuals from other parts of the world, Africa and Middle East and wherever. I think Japanese, Chinese as well, perhaps, and coming to what happened in the, let's say, related to is the Ekankar was gathering people and or seekers, and there was this opening of the consciousness, we'll say, and this occurred especially in the late 60s, 1965, and around this period. And also, though, that there was a relation to the drugs, sex, and rock and roll, hippie, and there's also the New Age, psychic, and metaphysical communities. And it also crossed into the religious quite definitely with movies like Help and Hair and the fifth dimensional songs and music, etc. So, okay, with that led to people looking for various things, including they were looking for this spiritual network and finding different avenues there. But what happened with the Ekankar was certainly our vehicle related to here with the New You team. And so I experienced that here in that I had also traveled to Arizona, actually first to California and Los Angeles, San Francisco. First time I came, and then I came back and did some residence in Arizona, etc., and finally met or found some Ekankar people, and so that led to that whole avenue. And the reason I'm mentioning it, though, has to do with has something to do with my eventually getting to get aware of the going beyond it and going beyond the creation models everywhere. And in human terms, myself to pull myself away from attachments of various kinds. And also, though, I'm relating this to the current because I came to visit Mexico recently and spent about 5 to 6 weeks. And in that trip, I got to meet Mexicans and the new friends and others. and it had an interesting cooperation or collaboration of different kinds. And what I'm related it to, though, was something that goes back to the original Eckankar with Paul Twitchell and Rebizar Tars, because Rebizar and others then were imparting this connection, and Paul wrote 30 different pieces of work, tremendous in that sense. And but his discovery of this is something related to, I would say, myself as a, because of my calling myself Peter, but it's also very close to Pedar, which is the name that Paul Twitchell had given as his so-called spiritual name, Pedar Zask, and or it could be pronounced differently, Zoskis. Zosk is, whereas Zos is, I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's just because it's related in the sense that, okay, there at that time there was a hierarchy, and with Paul and Rebizar, etc. And now, not necessarily reestablishing or talking about that, DUANE, in any way as a repeat performance. I'm only relating it because it's to see the path, let's say, that got presented, and each of us needs to find our way by creating our own. I don't mean you have to create another network or anything like that, or recreate anything. It just has something to do with an individual relating with that wholeness, all-isness, and our own all-isness. And it has to do with our recognizing of this, because that's the way it is. That's the way it's set up. It's not set up for us to, like, go into this, well, whatever. There's all these terms, guru, master, blah, 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 like that as one example, but there's all other kinds of references that could be used in different ways, because yes, there is some kind of a pathway where you go from one thing to the other, but there isn't anything saying that the pathway is the same for everyone, or it's any kind of automatism whatsoever. And that takes a lot for anyone to discover and realize. You're sitting in a group, everything looks really good, and then you go, well, yes, but I'm not quite getting something working here. I'd say I would relate that in Eckankar with the last event that I had ever gone to. Maybe it was 10 to 15 years ago, and probably about 10 or so. And after the event, there was kind of like a musician's thing, a little bit, where the people were playing, maybe play together a little bit, but not really organized. However, the feeling was that when I was with that, was that nobody was getting, let's say, me there. And there was the connection, or the flow, as you will, was not there at all, and it was noticeably strange. And that was kind of like a key moment, let's say, for that, where I go, wow, it's just really not there. It's not here, or if it was here, it's not here anymore. And those are the experiences that we need to have. We don't need to go and say, okay, let's say we're in a part of Persia. Okay, well, now that whatever they're trying to put forth in terms of a religious framework is really not there, and it's only because they're trying to force the recognition of continuity because of the social, national, cultural, political, or religious controlled function. And we realize that the dependency on those things is not consistent. So that kind of pulls together what I'm trying to say with this story, that what happened is in the observatory in California and Arizona, and gathering the people to sing. And in my book, it was written 20 years ago, was singing Hugh, which I knew about. But the point I got was that it was actually the individuals gathering to sing and recognize what they're singing with, or for, in a way for, but not exactly those words. And it's in a spontaneous newness that has had to be every time. So today's, like this moment, actually, I have a kind of a new beginning again. And I was thinking about how do I reference that and share it. I say, well, the new beginning is simple, and it happens, it's always happening. But yes, we do have these, let's say, cyclic, where we go, okay, this is really moving into some, the new beginning now. And I'm recognizing that new beginning and saying, okay, I got it. And I'm sharing that in a very large way, without, actually confronting a group or a nationality or a religion or a country or whatever, in other words, but that this new is really here now, active, complete. And whatever they're holding on to is, you can see, I'll use this example, which relates to the late 70s, and which was a time, and to the present time. In the 70s in America, in New York in particular, they were having a very hard time. There was a lot of poverty. There was a lot of breakdown of the cities. There was violence and a large-scale mafia, drug-controlled system or activity. And it was at a time which was relatively peaceful otherwise. But what had also happened in the sports era was that it had also been reflected in the power of the largest cities in the United States and their sports media, which is Los Angeles and New York. And now we have a repeat of the same events where the two top teams are in this major event they call the World Series, are from New York and Los Angeles. And you can see that how they have bought their teams. They bought the players. They have complete almost autonomy towards it. So it's inevitable that that this event happens this year, because it represents the consolidation of things that have been happening for the last period of time, and 60 years and 20 years till now, which is present in that reality, although most of the people don't fully recognize it, or don't recognize it at all, actually, or they do recognize it, but they feel powerless and under its spell, if you will, so that they are unwilling to really do anything to break out. And there's very few people that have anything to offer, or if any, actually have anything to offer that allows for a breakout, despite the appearances of some of these things, religions or metaphysics, etc., and or business modems. So and electromagnetically also. So these are the forces that are under the controlled network, and part of the story is that part, and the other part about those observers and that would be us here, and that's how I came about it, and so I kind of put all that together there or here, and so I want to thank you, and Val, thank you also for your continuation. We allowing that connections and or whatever for that part, and DUANE with that also especially all the parts that I had mentioned. Of course, there's all interrelated. There's not an accidental of any kind, and that's something that is that's an important part to recognize, even though it's all I'm thinking of the word entrepreneurial. I don't mean that exactly, but this point of that there really isn't any like order of things to coming upon it, and so I mean to say something having to do with that position of choice, and then but also having a willingness to use that choice and to identify it, because these things are, maybe it's all written in stone, history's already done, future's already done, there's nothing we can do in that way. Generally speaking, it's in human terms, they're heading towards whatever they're heading towards, and it doesn't look like they are, at least the controlled operation is willing to falter at all, despite its obvious and glaring indignities. So yeah, that's kind of where it is today, and I'm presenting that. I think that because as I was saying, or trying to present, is the new aegis, so to speak, which is not like necessarily something different than anything that has never been. It's always been. And so from that point of view, I'm not presenting it in a time frame at all. This is a very funny thing to talk about. So thanks, Val. I think I ran out of good phrases.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Peter, for expressing yourself. Thank you.
Right. Thanks,
All right.